Well, ladies and gentlemen, the latecomer is here. Makofi, tupige makofi. The latecomer is here bana. We kunywa maji kidogo kwa sababu I am embarrassed completely because sasa hii ni kuchelewa ina gani? Procrastination inanikula kichwa. Because I can't say last week was busy. How was your week, by the way? How was your week? Sasa juu amtakaki kuniambia acha niwaulize rhetorical questions. But anyway, welcome back again to another episode of the Cordial Podcast with me, Kang'ong'oi, just sitting under a tree at work and, still trying to figure out why I was late to upload this episode, last week's episode. And it's quite embarrassing, really embarrassing that I am late for the second time. Is this what people call adulting? Because nahitaji viboko wadau, viboko, very good strokes of a bamboo, but them shaichapa na hizo nini ama ilikuwa no, the bad one ilikuwa ile what was it, that plastic handle za buckets. Hiyo kitu ilikuwa inaingia, ilikuwa inaingia literally. Walikuwa wanatuchapa sana. But anyway, ladies and gentlemen, last episode we talked about perfectionists. Hiyo jina kizungu ni ngumu, perfectionists. And I mentioned that it breeds from selfishness, and I had a conversation with somebody after they listened to that particular episode, and something came up in between, because this particular person was saying there is the good side of perfectionists and the bad side. It all matters with how, of course, you are raised up, because there are people who have been raised up by guardians or parents who wanted everything to be done how they want it to be done, and everything will work out. And then there are people who were just raised by people who wanted everything to be done in their own way, but it didn't mean everything was working out. So they end up growing up to be also perfectionists in different ways. Somebody who's obviously taking everything, because they've gotten that bit of freedom, so they take every single situation that they're in and want to control everything, either from the perspective of wanting everything to be done your way and not listening to people. And then there's this other aspect of where how some particular situations can be handled. You've experienced it a couple of times and you are familiar with the patterns that you can see, and so you give that view, or you just handle every person who's in that situation with grace, but also you teach them how to handle that particular situation from your expertise, because you've been there before, not once, not twice, just a couple of times. So it's really a roller coaster if you think about it, especially in this life that we are in right now. Because how does somebody now move on from, or grow up, or heal from these particular childhood events that happened, where you are with somebody who just wanted everything to be done their way, but you have gone to school, you've been all around in life, and of course a new generation, and you've seen how people relate, and you're like, everybody should be inclusive, like you should be there for everyone should be heard on their opinions, and then delegated further with something that everybody will be comfortable in. And now you have to think whether is it the right choice to listen to people, or will you be a nag about it and just want everything to be done by your own self? And so I sat down thinking about that conversation, and I was like, enyewe, life life does not come with only one one strand of like the multiverse thing. It's not always the same thing to everyone. Everyone has a different experience. However much we can try to categorize them into some particular way of living, every situation is different, but the principles of life will always remain the same. Like gravity is there, so whether you're going up with a plane, there's some things that you can still feel the effect of gravity, whether you're trying to jump up and down. You see, all those situations are different, but gravity affects all of them. And so in this case, when we're talking about perfectionism, or being a perfectionist, I think the principle is clear. You should guy, jamani, you should ala, kwani maji nimepewa maji mbaya wadau. My tongue is sleeping, but anyway, you should show people grace, and you should always lend your ear to when people are having or expressing themselves or having conversations with other people. Be a good listener. Just be there and be active in listening, and don't just reply just because you want to reply or just give an answer, but think through it and everything that you do. And that's how we will build a community that is healthy, a community that appreciates one another, and a community that also appreciates good kind of communication and comprehension skills, where it is hard, by the way, it is hard to actually create a whole community like that, because there are people who are hell-bent on just sticking to how they want life to be. And I pity such people, because they then never get to enjoy life in full. They'll only want life from how they view it and not how others view it. And I think the beauty of life is where you can listen to other people and their situations, their experiences, and then you can learn all these things that they had to experience, and try and get as much as possible from them without thinking much, or without trying to show that you know better. Of course, you don't know better. So it's a really tough life to live in. But anyway, commercial break. Hiyo baridi ya last week ilitoka wapi? Baridi ya last week ilitoka wapi? Hata mimi bado nashindwa ilitoka wapi. Especially on Thursday. Thursday was bad. Thursday was bad to a point where people didn't go for maandamano. And I was like, wadau, see, we are sleeping kidogo. Shouldn't we be perfect at this thing? Get it? Yeah. So this conversation, I think, is long when we try and talk about how perfectionists act, and it definitely deserves a longer conversation with somebody else for this particular podcast. And these are things we are going to carry out in the near future. I'm just happy that I've been able to record this episode, because kidogo niseme hii imeenda hivyo. But no, that is not how we're going to carry on, because if I did that, then it will create a really wrong pattern that I do not want to create at all. It is better to be late than never. Anyway, kesho tutokee JKIA kwa sababu naweza jipata Santorini. Ama hutaki kwenda Santorini? Sisi watu wa Santorini, itabidi tumengoja. But anyway, thank you guys for listening in. This has been the Cordial Podcast with me, Kang'ong'oi, with another short episode. But yeah, these things deserve better planning, because we are going back to 20 minutes of yapping very soon. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, have a great week, have a great day, have a great afternoon, have a great morning. Just have a great life, man. Usi stress. Don't stress. Life will work out. Goodbye. See you next Saturday. Yes, or this coming Saturday. Sijui na mwezi inaisha. Salale.